Pod, episode 7. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. It's like every single time we do these, there's a lot of lag time, but I'm just excited to get back into it with you today, man.
Likewise.
It's been a
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah, no, it has been a minute. We obviously we caught up in New York earlier in April. I can't believe it's already May. But yeah, I mean, episode 7. We've obviously done 6 of these over, not the shortest period of time. And here we are. I feel like, we'll get into better cadence and continue rolling through the summer. But yeah, man, what's new with you? What's good in the hood?
Well, first off, I just want to say, like, credit to us, we're still going. Like
Yeah, yeah, the monkey's off
we
our
haven't
back.
given up, right?
Five after 5, I feel like, okay, now we're in deep.
Right. And like, let's get to 10, let's get to 15, let's get to 20, let's keep going. It's about the reps. That's the thing that to always remember. But in terms of me, what's been going on, man, a whole lot. A lot of stuff has been going on. Obviously, I'm rocking my Knicks hat today because I'm just excited about the Knicks. They're still in the playoffs. By the
Yo,
time this comes out, I don't even know like if they're going to still be in the
I
playoffs, but right
they
now
don't
they are.
they don't I mean, Miami, it I had the Knicks in 7 after if Butler's back, like, Butler obviously didn't play game 2. If Jimmy's playing, you guys are fucked. There's no the Heat are the better team. There's no doubt
Okay,
in my mind.
let me say this.
Eh,
Through the first 2 games, it seems like they're the better team, but I want you to not to make the mistake of like the recency bias of like the last, cuz every single game is almost like a whole entire new season. You know what I mean? Like you can't carry over what happens in game 1 to game 2 and what happens in game 2 to game 3 cuz we stole game 2 and now that gives us momentum going to Miami. Really, all we need is to take one in Miami, and then we still have like the home
you
court advantage.
you stole it without Jimmy playing, though,
I get it, but Randall didn't play in game 1, so
and
you know.
he played in game 2, though.
I know. I guess the
I didn't
point
think
being,
Randle looked great.
is that that we haven't played our best basketball, the Knicks, in this Miami series, and yet we're still tied 1-1, right? So it's like the biggest swing in my mind is whoever wins game 3 obviously has this huge advantage. And look, just to, again, like I always say this, to take the step back, I am so fucking excited about the Knicks. The Knicks are like my number 1 team and they're never good. It's been over a
Yeah,
decade since they've been good. And the funniest thing is just when the Knicks are even close to good, like the whole state, the city,
crazy.
nobody can handle it. It's crazy. And I'm sure you've seen like the videos of like we win, a game in the first series against Cleveland, right?
Yeah,
And they're celebrating on 8th Avenue and
yeah,
7th Avenue like we just won the championship.
crazy. Is the game tonight? Is game 3 tonight?
No, game 3 is tomorrow in the afternoon. And I've kind of, set up my schedule so no interference. But uh, yeah, it's a great time to be a Knicks fan. And I just keep thinking about that guy who's on the street going, "Yo, KD, don't you regret not coming to the Knicks?" Like that annoying guy is
Yeah,
so representative of the fan base. The funny thing is, I mentioned about trying to get my plans like together and
yeah.
coordinate everything because last week I missed the game or I had to record the game because I had a flag football playoff game, right? That
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
the coach of the team. And it was just the craziest day because it was a monsoon over here. And I literally was freaking out about that. I was going to miss the game. So I told all the parents, like, don't mention the game. Like, I'm DVRing the game.
Yeah.
It never works that way, right? It's never works.
Someone mentioned it?
We get through the entire game. It's the most amazing game. We play our rival team, right? I know nobody
Yeah.
really gives too much of a shit about my 8-year-old flag football team, the Panthers, that I coach, but it's very serious
No,
on Long Island. What?
it sounds serious. I mean, yeah.
It is. It's very serious. And so we played our rivals, like I said, in a monsoon, an amazing game, like one of the most memorable games for these kids. End up winning, and then we're walking off, and one of the kids goes over to my assistant coach and goes, his name is Brett, and he goes, "Hey, Mikey, I have bad news." And then every dad was like, "Shh, no, Brett, no." And then at that point, I knew what had happened. Like I
Yeah,
was like, I tried to like be like, oh, I didn't hear what just happened, and I didn't see how
I hate
everybody just
that. Yeah,
reacted,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I knew. And then I
yeah.
went home, I watched the whole thing, and it was miserable. But whatever, we came and we came back, we won game two, and so it's been a lot of sports going on. What's going on? What's been going on with you, bro?
In my world, yeah, man. Not. I'll just touch on the sports piece too. I've been traveling a little bit back in Edmonton now for at least a week here. And yeah, man, the Oilers obviously, different sport. Out north, we do hockey. And yeah,
Right,
man, I
right.
mean the city is buzzing. Like everyone's bro. It's 8 a.m. here on a Friday, and the Oilers game's tomorrow, and people are driving by my place and honking. Like so, yeah. I mean, this is a
Which
hockey town.
wait, Toronto's still in it too, aren't they?
So going into round two, Toronto was the favorites to win the cup, followed by the Oilers. So now Toronto's down 2-0 in their series, and we're down 1-0. So, but again, going to round two, the favorites to make the Stanley Cup final were Toronto from the East and the Oilers from the West. I still think we're favorites in the West. And man, yeah, the cup has never, I mean, look this good. I think we're playing Vegas. We'll see what happens, but I'm juiced up about that as well. And the guys, a couple of the guys I'm living with are massive Oilers fans, and I mean, the whole and what I kind of was thinking about this. I'm like, how interesting is it, right? Like from whenever the playoffs started, like April, whatever, to I think the Stanley Cup final game 7 is June 18th. Every day that there's an Oilers game, everyone stops doing what they're doing, and it's all like, okay, what are we doing for the game tomorrow? What are we doing for the game? And so the whole day just revolves around one sporting event, which like macro, I was just like, that's crazy, but that's entertainment, and that's what it is.
It's
Uh,
the best reality television, and
it is, yeah,
it's
yeah,
funny because I was talking to my friends about this, and like with the Knicks, there's like sometimes there's 3 days in between games, and it's like it feels like 3 years. Like
yeah.
you can't wait for that game. I also think there's some parallels between the Knicks fans and like Toronto, the
For
Maple
sure,
Leafs fans. Like a
crazy.
lot of right, like a lot of
Oh,
pain, like
yes,
just a crazy amount of joy of just their teams, both teams having like finally broken through and being in the playoffs and like kind of
yeah, yeah.
going into the next rounds. I see a lot of similarities between those two fan
No,
bases.
100%, 100%. I mean, Toronto hadn't won a first round series since 2004.
Uh-huh.
Until they just won last week or whatever. So, yeah, no, the sporting world is crazy, and obviously, working in sports, yeah, man, it's a fun time. It's a good time right now.
And then I was just thinking, like, tell me any, life news that has kind of popped up recently.
Yeah, you're prompting me. Is that
Yeah, is there
uh,
anything new in your world as it
yeah,
relates to your personal
yeah,
life?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I guess we'll lay it all out. So yeah, man. I mean, I recently had a girl meet my family for the first time in like years. And yeah, she's from here. We've been hanging out a little bit, and yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess long story short, I've been out of the game for a while, and I do now have a girlfriend.
Oh
Um,
man, I wish I could do the blowhorn thing right now,
yeah, bro. Yeah, nice. And I say that, with a big smile on my face.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, it's good. She's a great girl, nicest person I've met. So funny. My family loved her, so that's always good. And I brought up the idea that you had around the dating app that
Yeah,
included like
yeah.
information about the parents, and 'cause I brought that up before we met my parents, and then she said, and I kind of like was saying, "Oh yeah, like my dad's this, my mom's this, my sister's this, whatever." And she's like, "Yeah, like you hit that head on, and I would have swiped right if I had." So it went, yeah, it it went well all around, and yeah, and this is kind of leading me to my next point around. So she's like, I mean, there's never ideal timing for anything, but she left to Europe for like 3 months or 2.5 months or something. And what I'm going with that is there's this app, and so like even right now, my sister's traveling Thailand, and she's been traveling for probably 4 months. It's an
Yeah.
app called Polar Steps,
Uh-huh.
and essentially what it is, I'm sure you're familiar with like Be Real and stuff, but what you do on Polar Steps is you put in your trip details. So like, they're going to, I don't know, 14 different countries, right? So you go, I'm in Ireland from May 4th to 7th, then, France, May 7th, and you see like the whole trip outline. And then each day you take a photo of like wherever you are or what you're doing, and you can write like a little blog. And so, I mean, the joy that people have gotten, like my family members have gotten, not me specifically, I could care less about that shit, but my family specifically has gotten from like my sister, documenting this whole trip. And like today I ate breakfast here, and it'll be a photo of the breakfast spot, and I'm with the monkeys now, and just shit like that. So if I'm traveling later this summer, download the app. I'm gonna try it, like see how this daily blog with photos works. But yeah, Polar Steps is an app I would put people onto if they're travel blogging.
That sounds really cool. And I love how you just kind of, breeze through this huge new girlfriend, like you're
Her
off the
name's
market
Jules.
announcement. Jules. Yeah, because I want to kind of just really quickly go back to that and first ask you, where did you guys meet?
So we met. So the couple buddies I'm living with, the one guy's been with his girlfriend for probably 3 years,
Uh-huh.
and she traveled with us to. She came to like that boys trip, which wasn't ideal, but so we have a close relationship, and it was her birthday, like in March, and
Uh-huh.
uh, all of us went out, and yeah, I met her at the birthday dinner or whatever. I as
And
soon as So the funny thing is like all the guy like so all my boys were on
yeah,
like one side of the table, and then she was with like all her girlfriends on the other side, like my guy's girlfriend, and Jules sits kind of like in the middle, and I'm in the middle on the guy's side. And so I'm like, she seemed cool. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to like chop it up, but like, whatever, nothing's going to happen. But there were at least five of us who she was like the best looking one of the other group, and she's cool and whatever. So
yeah.
like, there were a few of us who were trying to chop it up, and whatever. We went out after, and this guy was like, yo, like, what do you think of her? I'm like, she's cool. He's like, "Oh man, like she already really likes you." And then I like looked at him, I like walked right away, went up to her, I think probably gave
I
her a kiss
love
or
it.
some shit, and then that was it. Yeah, so the competition
Gave
was
her what? Wait, what'd you give her?
a kiss or some shit.
You just went up there and gave her a kiss.
Yeah.
I like the decisiveness. I like her name. I like that her name is Jules because it makes me think of Julius Randle, who I'm a big fan of.
Okay.
Um, how many? So did you like go on a certain amount of dates before it became
Yeah,
like?
yeah,
Is
man.
it is it Instagram official?
Nah, no,
No,
no, I
you
don't need.
don't do that. You
I
don't have to
mean,
let it.
no, I'm not like that. I don't need to like if it maybe you'd see some at some point, but like I'm not actively posting stuff about.
Uh-huh.
I like to keep, the personal, like even it's cool talking about it on here, but like most of the stuff I like to keep like pretty close to the vest. I feel like this is me and you having a conversation,
Yeah.
which people are going to listen to, and I'll clip some of this and send it to her maybe as a no, but uh, yeah, man, no, not Instagram official. But in terms of the amount of date, like for me, I feel like you got to hang out with someone a long time and,
Yeah.
and just get to know them. And yeah, we went out a few times a week, probably for a month and a half, maybe a month, and then again, like with her leaving for a long time, it was kind of one of those things like, do I do it? Do I not do it? And everyone was kind of like on me, like, yo, come on. Like, and so I ended up, yeah, I ended up making it official.
I love it. I love it. You got that NRE. You know what that is?
NRE. It sounds like BDE, but what is it?
It's that new relationship energy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a real thing, apparently. Somebody
What,
told me.
what makes you say I got that?
You just have like a kind of like a bounce in your step, like you seem happier and lighter, and you're glowing. You're glowing with that new relationship energy. And I don't know. I'm kind of like living vicariously through you, because there really is something special about like getting into a relationship right at the beginning, and like finding somebody that you just connect with and you click with, and it's exciting. I mean,
Yeah,
right?
man.
Like
Yeah,
it's really such a fun thing to kind of like make it official, and then really kind of get to know somebody on that deeper level. And I don't know, it's like a journey. It's like you're starting a whole new journey. So I'm excited
100%,
for you, man.
100%. And as I've gotten older and matured a little bit, I see it as that as well. And it's just something where, like it's just someone to challenge you, someone to laugh with, someone to have a good time with. And yeah, bro, it's good. It's good.
This is cool. I'm glad that we're capturing this moment in time. It'll be funny to look back on, if we're able to do podcast number like 50 and just be like, yo, remember in podcast 7, episode 7 of the Put On, when you first started dating Jules? I would be like,
Yeah,
whatever.
man. Yeah, we'll at some point, I think it'd be interesting, and this is probably for episode 50, but you to your wife to make a cameo, and maybe Jules makes a cameo. That not that it's remotely the same, but so people can tap into who are in our lives a bit more. But that's episode 50, so
It'd
we'll
be
see.
funny to do a little clip with both of them, just like talking about like their feelings on us doing this podcast, just like as a short form, TikTok clip, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. No, 100%. But yo, yeah, should we get into these segments?
Yes, let's do it.
So again, my favorite spot to start. Hit me with a half-baked idea that you've had.
Okay. So I'm excited about this idea because it aligns really well with like where we're at right now with the seasons. Like it's spring, it's beautiful outside in New York right now, like 65 degrees. Weekend's going to be nice. And every time that the weather gets nice, inevitably, what happens? Bugs. They come back,
Yeah,
right? It's
yeah.
bug
I
season.
thought you were going somewhere. Remember what you told me about when New York gets nice? You were,
Oh, what's that? That all the girls come out? All
yeah.
the pretty girls come out. Yeah, that happens too. All the pretty girls come out when the weather changes, but also the bugs come back. And
Okay.
I think you know this about me, but I um am a person that does not kill bugs.
I
Except for
didn't.
mosquitoes. You
Okay.
did or didn't know
I
that?
didn't know that. No.
So I think it was maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. I have a friend, my buddy Eric. Shouts to Eric. Um, he's like a very spiritual guy, and he was with me one night, and there was a bug in the room, and I think I killed a bug, and like just because whatever was there, and he was like, Why you have to kill that bug? Like, like you're scared of that bug? Like you're 10,000 times the size of that bug. Like
Yeah.
that bug's scared of you. You don't need to kill that bug. And ever since then, I was just like, he's right. Like, why am I killing bugs? Also, I don't like killing bugs, like getting like a tissue and like, crushing a bug
Yeah.
in a tissue and like, or like, stepping on, like, I don't want to do that. So what I started to do was I started to get a cup, get a piece of paper, and I would literally, yeah, capture it, like get it into a cup, and then I'd let it outside. And ever since I did that, I felt like I can't explain it. It made me feel good, like it made me feel like I was taking the time to do something and help a bug out, even though, like
Help,
whatever, like
help a bug
a,
out.
yeah, like I kind of like told myself a story that these bugs have like, they have families too and whatever. And like, and
Yeah.
even with like spiders and stuff like that, where I used to be scared of them, I was like, spiders actually eat other bugs. And like, why am I scared? So that became a big thing in my house. Now, like I mentioned, it's bug season. Here's the thing: a cup and a piece of paper, it's like I might as well be a caveman, I'm like going around trying to like capture it in
Yeah.
that way.
It's not time efficient.
It's not. And it's so basically I have this idea, again, very half baked. Um, it's either called Bug Season, like SZN, or it's called the Bug Taxi, or like a
Okay.
Bug Ferry, whatever. And literally, what it is like it would be a long, like kind of like attachment that's connected to. The way I envision it is like a little kind of like clear, like little kind of whatever container
Yeah.
that we would make look like a taxi, okay, just
Sure.
to like for the
Yeah. Yeah.
the fun of it.
Problem.
And you would be able to hold this thing, and you know how like you have those things that are like the claws that like grip things on like the
Yeah.
long sticks. So similar thing where you'd be able to like hold a lever, it would open the thing, then you would
Oh,
be able to go to it, right? And like in the most ideal scenario, it would have some sort of suction that could kind of like get the bug in if you're not just trying to enclose it. And then you would close it, right? And then you'd be able to take it to your window, and then you'd be able to open it, and it would have some sort of little small fan contraption that would blow it out. And basically, it's just like something that could help people get rid of bugs that are inside their house without killing them. And that would make it way more convenient than the method that I have right now.
yeah. I'm curious, and I want to. We should do a poll. How many people feel the same way around not wanting to kill bugs? I've honestly never thought twice. If there's a mosquito, a fly, whatever, or spider in my room, it's dead. And
I listen. I agree. I think most people are like you. But then I would turn around and ask you the question, like, isn't that kind of strange that that's just like such a common thing where we just like kill bugs? Like, why do we like that's kind of strange? No, like, what else is there in life where it's just completely okay to just like kill something, a living thing?
I guess, yeah. I mean, I feel like there's just so many bugs, and it's going to be an inconvenience to you. Like if there's some mosquitoes in my room, there's no way I'm going around trapping them. I got to
The
kill them.
mosquito. Listen, like I said, the
You kill
asterisk
mosquitoes. I
for
know.
bug
Yeah, yeah,
season for the bug taxi is we kill mosquitoes because mosquitoes they're trying to they're like little vampires. They're trying to suck our blood, right? But
yeah.
like everything else, like they're not trying. Like a bee gets into my house, a fly gets into flies are so annoying, and those are the worst to try and catch.
Yeah.
But like even then, as a reformed bug killer, I would just say to you, Cal, next time there's a bug in your house, try and capture it and let it go. And just tell me how it feels. Like, see how it feels.
Okay, I will. I will. Hopefully, I have a bug story next time.
All right. Tell me what's your half baked idea?
So my half baked idea has to do with text. Now, I'll preface with if you are someone who gets a lot of texts or even not a lot but struggles to reply to people and just go through all that. See, so I'm good in email.
Hmm.
I've got a I was talking about it before, but I've got a third party application where like I can go in and if I don't want to reply to email right away, I can click this function H and then remind me at 2 p.m. So it'll send the email again to me at 2 p.m. Or I can set different shortcuts, etc. Now with text, I find myself, in the day to day, like if I have meetings, if I'm working during the day, maybe at night I'm chilling with friends, I'm at an event, whatever. I get a lot of texts that, and I'm sure some people. Now this isn't going to apply to everyone, but some people like this as well, where unless I am replying in real time and I'm not busy, I find that I miss a lot of texts, and then have people hitting me up like, bro, like, are you ignoring me or like work stuff? Like, man, can you reply to my text? Like, and so I think there's not this. There needs to be some sort of either integration. I have an iPhone, so an iOS integration, but like some sort of text integration where it allows you to essentially like set reminders, bump certain text to you at certain times,
Hmm.
sort them through like okay. I know you can pin people's names at the top, but like sort them through maybe I have a family sort of text inbox, maybe I have a work, and then maybe I have a friends. Like just cleaning up that whole process, and being able to remind myself so I'm actually staying on top of my text is my idea.
I love it. And I think it's really smart because I kind of have the same problem myself with like, just throughout the course of a day, all these people kind of
Yeah.
hitting me up, and like it's hard to respond to all of them. I actually use like iMessage on my Mac.
Yeah, me
Just
too,
I feel like it's so much easier to respond like just when I'm in front of my computer and
for
just like
sure.
in that way. But I think it also speaks to the fact of like how many modes of communication there are right now and how unmanageable it is. I mean, think about, bro, text, like, yeah, that's one thing. And then I have my DMs like on an Instagram and TikTok. And then you have your email, and then I have my
For sure.
Slack. And it's like,
So tough.
it's impossible. It's literally unmanageable. And so I love the idea of trying to figure out ways to just either, streamline it or make it a little bit more manageable. I'm down with it. I love that idea. I'm sure there's some stuff out there like that probably maybe they already have it to some degree. But I'm down with it. You're
Yeah.
staring very hard right now. What are you looking at?
No, it's like 30 degrees Celsius here, 95, and I felt the heat because I don't have my fan on because it's loud. It'd be
Uh,
loud. Just felt the heat kick in, and I just a layer of sweat, and I was like, shit. Like, so I was just thinking about how hot I am right now. But no,
I got, but just on that note, I had to take the subway to Penn Station yesterday, and I hadn't taken the subway in a while. Um, and I was like wearing my backpack, my jacket. Subway was packed. It was so hot. It was like I always feel like when you're hot and you're like, surrounded by a lot of like my nightmare is getting stuck like on a
on the subway
subway
when it's
car.
hot.
Yeah, with
But
a lot of people like that. That is a horror movie for me.
that'd be insane. Yeah, I don't even want to think about that. That gives me bad vibes. Uh, should we transition?
Yes.
Hit me with a show or movie that you've watched recently that you want to put me and people onto.
Okay. This is a very easy one for me right now because I am locked in to the show Dave on FX. And Dave is this show that's all about this rapper named Lil Dicky. You know Lil Dicky, right?
Who the fuck you think he is? Yeah.
Yeah. And Lil Dicky's somebody that I've followed for a
Hold
while. Like,
hold on. What's that song? What's like his most? I'm forgetting the name, but it came out in my grade 12 year. Freaky Friday.
Freaky
Grade 12
Friday, right,
Freaky
right,
Friday.
right.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Now continue.
So what's so kind of interesting about Lil Dicky is like obviously he's a different type of rapper. Like he's very vulnerable. He's super talented.
Yeah.
Um he is like I think, for a lot of like white rappers, if I'm being honest, there's always been this kind of like way that you can be a white rapper, and it's very much in the mold of like an Eminem, right? Or like a Mac Miller, or like even I don't know. I guess it's kind of gone in different directions, kind of
Little
over the
Jack
last
Harlow.
couple of years. Yeah, Jack Harlow. I mean, to me, Jack Harlow is like not as bad as like a Macklemore, but like kind of in that realm where it's more like pop music.
Yo,
Um,
do you? I'm being very random today, but do
yeah,
you
yeah.
think that I look like Macklemore? Because I get that
Um,
all the time.
yes, you actually do look a lot like Macklemore, bro.
Like he looks different now, but like
No, you kind of you have a similar face and like complexion, and he's
okay,
not a
yeah.
bad looking guy. So
No,
like,
I
I
think
just still love his music.
he looks very serious now. He looks like a good looking dude now, but well,
Yeah,
yeah. Sorry, random aside.
not to hate on Macklemore. I just ever since he got the Grammy over like Kendrick Lamar and like Drake and all those guys,
Sure.
that always rubbed me the wrong way. But to I don't let me go off that tangent. So this show, Dave, Lil Dicky, the background is like he's an incredible freestyle rapper. He's super talented, right? And then he has this show, and we're now in the third season of this show, and the first two seasons were amazing. So the show is produced by I think the guy's name is Jeff Schaefer, and like Jeff Schaefer is somebody that was involved with Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm. He was a writer.
Yeah.
I think it's also produced by Scooter Braun. And so there's so many like very famous celebrities that are like as guest stars.
Yeah.
But the cast is really amazing. And it's really kind of like about it's almost like a fictional version of his real life, like as a rapper,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like what he experiences as as like being like the a white Jewish rapper in
Oh, yeah.
kind of being like that anomaly.
Where's he
Um,
from?
I think he's originally from Philadelphia,
Okay.
and I think what makes the show so special is like, yeah, he's a rapper, but it turns out he's just a brilliant creative mind, like actor.
Yeah.
Like he completely translates, and there's so many times within the show where like all of a sudden it'll spin into like a musical performance, and it's like almost a music video,
Yeah.
like a really incredible music video at
Yeah.
certain portions. And so this season, season 3, I would say like you've never watched the show, yeah?
No.
I would say it's okay. You could start from season 1. I thought season 2, the first half of season 2 was really strange, and then the second half was amazing. Season 3 has been just like an all-time television series season, and why I've loved it so much is because, like, well, first off, there's been like he's on tour in this season, and
Yeah.
there's love interests in every place he goes that are like so hot that part of it has been amazing. And then just every episode's been super funny. But the one thing to just call out is he has a couple different people that are in the show as part of like his team. There's this guy Andrew Santino, who's like a really funny stand-up comedian who plays his manager, and then his real life hype man is a guy named Gata, and
Like like Gator or Gata?
Gata,
Okay.
but pronounced Gata,
Yeah.
like short for alligator.
Yeah.
And this guy is a rapper himself, and he is like the breakout actor, like person on this show who's apparently has never been an actor
Really?
before this, but
Okay.
in I think it was last season, like he should have won the Emmy for like supporting actor. He's like there's so many layers. He he's like talks about his mental health. He's like has all of these kind of like emotional things that like you kind of see into this guy's real life, and like they're both very much vulnerable in that way, and there's a lot of comedy, and there's a lot of like emotional stuff. um it's just an amazing show, and I can't recommend it like more. It's just so good. You got to check it out. Dave on
I'll
FX.
I'll watch it I'll watch it next week.
Okay, tell me about show or movie that has your attention.
Yeah, so I've been slacking a little bit on the shows recently. I don't watch much TV or movies. And the only one that I've watched recently that I would highly recommend just is like a, you know, long day, you want to go and just kick back, enjoy a show, good plot. It's called Imposters. It's on
Hmm.
Netflix. And it is about it's essentially about a con artist. This woman, you know, infiltrates like these wealthy people's lives and gets them to fall in love with her, and then gets married within like, you know, like a 6 week period. And then at a certain point she'll in the middle of the night, you know, take all their money and leave. And then, you know, she does that to multiple people, and these three people have all been conned by the same woman, end up serendipitously finding each other, and then kind of go on this quest to like uncover details about her life that obviously is fake in all these different situations. She's got a different name, different accents, etc., but like trying to find her. And then, you know, it gets into a lot more stuff with the FBI trying to uncover this operation, etc., etc. I don't want to spill too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely you know, it's 2 seasons, 10 episodes each season. It's like a quick, easy watch. Like man, I honestly, you and the wife, like, you know, it's a good show to watch with someone and just easy. Yeah,
I'm
that's
real. You know what? It sounds like a good show. I'm also really into like con artist type.
yeah,
Like what were those ones? There were a couple of ones that I watched. I feel I can't even remember what their names are. Like a couple months ago, you
Money
remember?
Heist.
Not Money Heist. There was one with like there was like some girl who I can't remember. Nah, man, this is gonna drive me crazy. Maybe I just look it up real quick. Con artist show.
um,
The first one that comes up was Imposters, Inventing Anna.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. The first wait, hold on. The first one that comes up is Imposters.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And then there was another one. The Tinder
yeah,
swindler.
yeah, 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 yeah. That one's funny.
Con artist content is I don't know. There's something just compelling about watching somebody, like pull a fast one on somebody else.
Yeah, one of my favorite movies was Focus with Will Smith and Margot Robbie. You seen Focus?
I don't think I have.
You've never seen Focus? Are you
No,
serious?
no.
Yeah, it's Will Smith runs a whole con operation where they do like they go to places like Mardi Gras and steal everyone's shit, and it's a whole operation. And like, I mean, yo, there's definitely stuff like that in play with the whole like pickpocketing and people like distracting you and other people. There's some crazy stuff. I was getting some. I not that I'm totally morally against stealing and all that, but like this was like, oh, okay, yeah, you could probably do this, or you could like. There's people get creative with it.
There's
I'm
something
hoping
interesting
to
about
watch
you know what my favorite con artist movie is?
what.
Catch Me If You Can. You ever seen that one with
Yeah,
Leo
yeah, yeah.
about
That's a good.
Frank Abagnale?
Yeah, that's a great movie.
Great movie,
Um, yeah,
classic.
I mean, Leo's the man, but yeah, bro, that's my show.
Okay, that's cool. Any books or articles that you've read lately that you want to put me onto?
Yeah, yeah. So I think you might have we talked about it, you might have read this before, but for anyone who hasn't, I would put them onto this. The Power of Now by
Yes,
Eckhart Tolle or Tolle or however you say it.
I think it's Toll.
Tolle, Eckhart Tolle. Yeah, so The Power of Now for me, and we've talked about it in previous pods, and I was like probably halfway done, and then something hit me during one of the pods, and I was just like, hey, like I should probably finish this book.
Yeah,
And just around the fact of just like living in the moment, man, and being present and mindful. We were talking, I was kind of saying that for me, and I am aware of it, but it's always one of those things where, you know, I'm worried about shit that hasn't happened and I'm worrying about shit that probably will never happen. It's just like, why am I spending energy thinking about these things? Like my energy should not be spent there. It's wasted potential. Like it's like, what the fuck are we doing? What am I doing? And so at that point I was like, okay, like let me finish this book. And so, yeah, man, I mean, at its core, it really just kind of talks about finding your spiritual self, and helping you realize how you can use, psychology to your advantage. And so, again, just being self aware, freeing your mind to only think about important things. And so, like, man, like, you and I overthink this pod a crap ton, but people overthink what shirt they're gonna put on in the morning. Like, and that's why guys like you see those stories like Mark Zuckerberg just wears the same thing because
right.
it's one less decision he has to make. Um, yeah, man, I'm out here like worrying about stuff that is never. Yeah, man, it's just like just be in the right now. And I think that with things that have happened in my life recently, I've really been able to kind of take advantage of that and be present yeah, man, I'm happy. I'm happy right now, but yeah, just the concept of now, the present moment, key to achieving, inner peace of mind, happiness, and kind of getting into the spiritual side. I'm not a super spiritual guy, but I think the biggest thing that I learned from this book was being able to transcend the ego is brought up a lot, and yeah, I definitely have an ego when it comes to
Don't we
things.
all?
For sure, for sure. So yeah, man, that's kind of my takeaway from the book. And yeah, if you do struggle with kind of what I just talked about and want to be, focus on mindfulness and being in the present, I recommend it.
I read that book a while back. I kind of vaguely remember talking to you about it. And when I read it, I remember just like it hit me at a good moment in time because it is so true. Like human behavior of just everybody has this habit of dwelling on the past and kind of like always thinking about things that have happened and experiences they have and like not being able to kind of move past those things and then also worrying about the future and you spend so much time in the future and in the past that
Yep.
you really, so many of us have a really hard time just being present, just kind of like being in the moment.
Yep.
And yeah, and I think it really does contribute to a lot of stress and unhappiness in a lot of people's lives,
No
myself
doubt.
included.
100%. 100%. Yeah, it's such a big thing, man. I mean, most of us are, what do they say? Learn from the past and take that and apply it to the present so that the future is going to be better and brighter. I don't, they actually don't say that. I just totally made that up in my head. I guess there is like a saying around that I blanked on. I just made that up, but yeah, yeah, I notice it, in so many people's lives, and try to preach just again being present right now. Even bro, even something as simple as like you're hanging out with people or you're with your family or friends or at an event, whatever it is. And the amount of people who will still like, go on their phones or you're on vacation and, someone's worried about work or work. People are always thinking about something else. And out of my peers, I always kind of allude to the fact that like, yo, hey, like that can probably wait till tomorrow or like, just don't stress and just be like, I hate people who are going to come out and live on their phones and just like, again, if I'm somewhere and I'm texting someone else, am I really with you? No.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so
100%. Well, a lot of what you're talking about is actually relevant to the book that I read.
yeah, okay, hit me.
So the book that I read is the Almanack of Naval Ravikant. It's by Eric Jorgensen. The Almanac of Naval Ravikant, A Guide to Wealth and Happiness. And, just on those like quick points that you were just talking about, because like I have a couple of notes on, like some of the principles that Naval
Yeah,
talks about. One being that all screen activities are linked to less happiness, right? And all non screen activities are linked to more happiness.
yep,
And then the idea of happiness is mainly not suffering, not desiring, and he says like not thinking too much about the future or the past, right? Embracing the present moment and the reality of what it is. But to take the step back, Naval is one of those guys that I stumbled upon very randomly. I would say it was probably about 4 or 5 years ago now at this point. And the first time I listened to him was on the Joe Rogan podcast. He had an interview with him. I actually remember exactly how I listened to it because there's a famous producer named Brian Koppelman who produces the show Billions, and he was like going on a car trip, and he was asking like, "I'm going on a long car trip. Like, does
yeah,
anybody have any podcasts that they'd recommend?" And
yeah,
so many people at that point in time were like, "You have to listen to the interview with Naval on Joe
yeah,
Rogan."
yeah.
So I checked it out, and it was one of those things that just I don't want to like say this can come off sounding some sort. It kind of changed my life, like listening to this one interview
With
with Naval.
Wallen Joe. Okay.
And I just I came away from it just like, wow, this guy is so clear in how he thinks about wealth and happiness and just how to live like a fulfilling life. Um, he's a very successful guy. He's the founder of AngelList.
Yep.
He is a very successful investor. He's invested in all these different companies. But what he's turned himself into is kind of like this modern day philosopher. And he just, uh, he also was very popular because he had a tweet storm a couple of years ago called How to Get Rich Without Getting Lucky.
Yep.
And it
Yes.
was just like each tweet was just like such a pearl of wisdom, and
Yeah,
so it blew up, it went viral. And so this guy Eric Jorgensen basically decided he was going to go through all of his interviews, go through all of his kind of tweets, all of like his like blogs and the interviews that he had in publications, and kind of take all of the best Naval content and
yeah,
put it into this book.
I guess.
And this book is just so great. I mean, it's so much like valuable, practical life
Yeah,
guidance, and very much on the wealth and happiness and wisdom front. I took a couple of notes of like the things that kind of stuck out to me, because a lot of it actually plays into, where me and you are at in life and kind of like what we're doing. So one big thing he talks about is seeking wealth and not money or status, right? This
yeah,
idea of you can't get rich by renting out your time, that you have to own equity to gain financial freedom.
yeah, yeah.
That's something that is always kind of in the back of my mind. Will you
I'm
have what's your thought on that?
I mean, I remember early day like, so we obviously worked together.
Right.
I started and then you were brought on and we had a conversation because we were both, in a contract negotiations or whatever. And yeah, the conversation I remember, man, the conversation was just around like, yo, at the end of the day, like, an extra 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 grand in a salary is not going to make or break. It might contribute to a little better quality of life in the interim, but it's not going to make or break how wealthy you become. And yeah, it was one of those things where you told me like, yo, at the end of the day, you need equity. And I mean, yo, I agree 100% in the sense that there's only so many hours in the day, and so it's one of those things where you know if you need to trade time for money, then yeah, if you have a goal to be uber wealthy, and I don't think wealth, and I know you just touched on that, wealth to me is in experiences, is in relationships, is in sure financially, but it's a plethora of things. But if we're just talking the financial money side, yeah, you can't trade time for money and be uber wealthy.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. And I think as you go through life, you realize like it's very true. And even for people, and he makes this point, that are doctors or that are lawyers, like it still is the same thing. You still need equity, which is why they open up private practices and why they try and, invent like patents and those sorts of things. Another important thing that he touches on is this idea of arming yourself with specific knowledge, right? Specific knowledge, accountability, and leverage. So specific knowledge is basically knowledge that you cannot be trained for.
Yeah,
And it's found by basically pursuing like, your genuine curiosity and your passion. That's something that obviously, like, I think me and you both subscribe to.
yeah,
And this idea of like, you want to find work that feels like play, because I think another big thing that he discusses is this idea of like escaping competition, right? And doing that through authenticity.
yeah,
That if you're competing with people, it's because you're copying them. And so he really talks about this idea of like finding your authentic voice, like really leaning into your personal brand, right? And kind of using that to create leverage for you. So,
yeah,
you know, he has this line where it's like, if you can't code, write books and blogs, record videos and podcasts. I'm like, yeah, let's go. You know what I mean? And,
yeah,
and he's saying, record, build your brand on Twitter and YouTube and give away that work, and you make a name for yourself. You take some risk, right? And then when it's time to move on an opportunity, you have that leverage.
yeah,
This this idea of productizing yourself, right? Like productize has leverage, yourself has uniqueness, both have specific knowledge.
yeah,
And so like he has so many of these like nuggets of just, there's so much truth behind what he's saying, because I think it kind of goes back to some of the Tim Ferriss, like, the 4 hour work week thing of just like, it's not how hard you work, right? It's like, it's being able to be really thoughtful about what you choose to do, right? Being really thoughtful about who you work with,
Yeah.
being really thoughtful about like playing the long game, and then just kind of like investing deeply in those things. So he really values time, he really values independence,
Yeah.
right? And all of these things I think are so that you can get off of, the what's it called? The hedonic treadmill, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And all of these things speak to freedom. All of freedom speaks to happiness. And so they all kind of go hand in hand.
Really.
He has this line, retirement is when you stop sacrificing today for an imaginary tomorrow. Love that. Like
Fine. Yeah.
and like it's just this entire book is filled with those types of things, right? How do you define wisdom? Understanding the long-term consequences of your actions, which I feel like it makes me think about my snacking problem. And it's like I'm not that wise because I literally keep doing the same thing. But
Yeah. Yeah.
and then there's so the whole first part of the book is about wealth and about like all of the strategies for it, about like not playing these zero sum games, right? And kind of thinking more broadly about how you approach your work, your relationships, all these things. And then the second part really focuses on happiness and kind of speaks to some of the things that you were talking about, with the Eckhart Tolle book, right? Like he has this line, what is it? Desire is a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want, right? So that like, it's basically like
Oh,
we're always craving that next thing, and we're always like, you're going to go through life always feeling that way, and that is the root of like why people suffer, because it's never about like, it's never good enough. There's
yeah.
always, you always want more, right? And so I think just like all of these things, when I read books like these, it's just it speaks to my soul, and it
Yeah.
makes me feel like these are things that I've always felt like are true to me, but then hearing it from somebody who's so successful, who's so admired and respected,
Yeah.
like it just really means a lot. And he's one of those guys that I like I make the joke about like if he had a religion, like I would subscribe to that religion. Like
Yeah.
he's on that level. He is like a guru. He is so smart, and it's just one of those books that I really read. Have you ever read that book or no?
No, no, but it sounds like I'm gonna have to.
You have to. It's so good. You will love it.
Yeah, no, I also want to listen to that Joe podcast with Naval.
Yeah, and you should listen to. He also was on Tim Ferriss once upon a
I
time.
actually think I listened to that one.
Not a recent one because he's been on recently, and those haven't been as good because he's kind of played like the host with another guest. But when
Uh,
it's just Tim and him,
Tim and him,
it's great. Tim and him.
Eminem, Tim and him.
Yeah.
Should
All right.
yeah,
Yeah, I think we move on because otherwise I'm just going to keep like
yeah.
rambling on about this.
No, again, some of those nuggets are. I mean, now you got me thinking here. So, just to transition, piece of social content, trend, or creator that's on your mind.
Okay. A creator that's on my mind is so again, you end up on the on TikTok just scrolling, and all of a sudden random shit pops up right on your For You page, right?
Yeah,
You know how that goes. Saw one a couple weeks ago, and I was like, this is crazy. And then it started popping up, and it's an account called Fishing Garrett, or Fishin Garrett. The G is like connected. And it is some crazy guy in the Florida Everglades who is literally fearless, who's like going into the swamp at night and just he'll like there's lots of alligators. He calls them swamp puppies, and he'll just be like, "Oh, there's another swamp puppy," and then he'll go up behind another one, and he'll like grab the alligator's tail, and the alligator like
yeah,
run off. He'll like It's like be like, oh, look at that giant fucking spider. Like, I'm gonna go up and like touch its back, or like,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
and then he does this thing too where he says yoink a lot. So he'll be like, oh, there's like a cottonmouth snake, like yoink, and he'll just like pick it up.
yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah,
He'll be like, oh, there's like a rattlesnake, yoink, and it's just like in the fucking swamp at night, like just
yeah,
like he'll be like, and he'll be like, oh, and he's very knowledgeable. Obviously, it's not like he's some idiot. He's like, this one's not poisonous, and it's just like, oh, there's an otter, and like check out this swamp creature, and he'll just reach his hand into the fucking Florida Everglades swamp and pull it out, and it's one of those things where you're like, wow, this is like it's amazing just how random the content is that you get. But
yeah.
where he's like, what's the guy, now I'm blanking on his name,
Ozzy,
no, the famous animal guy who died,
Ozzy. I just said Steve Irwin.
Steve Irwin, right,
I
right,
asked. I
right.
was asking you if he was Australian, and then
Oh, okay. I didn't
I
know.
said Ozzy. You're like,
Thought you
no,
were saying it like his name. Yeah,
no.
he's
Yeah,
like
Steve
Steve
Irwin.
Irwin. He's like the TikTok
Yeah,
Steve Irwin. I've never seen his face though, but incredible.
yeah. I've seen that guy. I've been. He's been popping up for a few months on mine now, and I was always just thinking like, yeah, this is crazy. He's in the swamps at night. Yeah, fishing Garrett. Okay, it's a good one.
Tell me about you got a creator or a
Yeah, I got
channel?
a creator. This guy's an OG. He's been around for a long time. He's got like crazy amount of followers. Zach King.
Hmm.
He recently has been. I haven't seen his stuff in a while, but he's recently been coming up on my feed again. And yeah, man, I just think like just the creativity and what he does with the videos. Like again, I was telling like he'll go to the Eiffel Tower and he'll just like pick it up, and then the Eiffel Tower will be gone from the background, and it'll like start using it as a pepper shaker for someone's pet. Like it's just these crazy videos with magic meets imagination. And
Yeah,
yeah,
but I think what's really crazy about it, and because you kind of put me on to him like earlier, and then it kind of rejogged my memory.
yeah,
I feel like it must be a crazy amount of like editing, post production, like what he's able to do with it,
what
because it's
I'm saying.
real shit. And then he's like you're talking about like the Tower of Pisa, and like he'll like unscrew it and then like put it over here, but they're like real.
Yeah,
How does he do it?
yeah. I don't see like you'd have to get the screw right, and then you'd have to. Yeah, it's probably a crazy amount of post work. Um, but yeah, I enjoy his content. You're right though. Shouts to the editing team.
I know, and what it makes you realize is like editing is such an art, man.
It is. Yeah, yeah.
Like really shouts to the editors out there, because they don't really get a lot of love,
I
and
agree.
like us going through this process, we know now how important editing is, especially when you're making the clips. Like, it's the difference between something having a million, likes, and something having like 5 likes, is like
100%.
the ability to make it. It's storytelling is really what it is, what it boils
Yeah.
down to, right?
No, 100%. Yeah, it's such a key aspect in content, and I mean, obviously you're in that world, and we're both doing it right now. But yeah, shout out to everyone who can edit it. I mean, Premiere's hard, bro.
It is really hard. It is hard. It's going to get easier with all the AI shit, but that's a story for another
Another.
day. Let's move on to the next thing. I feel like we're humming right now.
Yeah, our artists, albums, songs you've been listening to, or any musical related thoughts.
Um, do you want to go first, or should I go first?
I can go.
Okay,
I
cool.
was prompting you because yeah. Um, the artist that's actually I'll say two things. One, did you because we brought up Jack Harlow earlier? He dropped a new album probably a week ago. You listened to it?
I did not know.
Jack Man is what it's called. I think Jack Harlow's probably the swaggiest white dude right now.
Uh huh.
But I'm a Jack Harlow fan. I think his albums are hit or miss. He's got some bangers, some kind of sound the same. I'm not out here saying like he's the guy, but I fuck with Jack Harlow. And
You're
yeah,
a
the
Jack Harlow fanboy.
no, no, no. I didn't say he's that guy. I like him though. I like his vibe, and so yeah, Jackman. I was listening to that, and yeah, it's an okay track. Denver, listen to the song Denver. Denver's a banger. There's a couple other good songs on there, but yeah, overall, don't run and listen to the new Jack Harlow album. I'll say that
Can
Denver,
I just say two quick Jack Harlow points?
sure.
One, I saw a video of him the other day, I think on TikTok, where it was like a concert where he was at. I think it might have been like Rolling Loud in like 2000, I don't know, 18 or 17, where there were like 40 people, like in the audience. And he was just like, thank you. And like, whatever.
Yeah,
And then it was like, and then it showed him like at a concert now with like, whatever, like hundreds of thousands of people
yeah,
in the audience. So just like cool to see
like,
the come up be there. And then whenever I think of Jack Harlow, I always think about the fact that when he was young, like he had a weird look, like where he had
oh,
like
without, yeah, we
without the facial
I
hair,
look at that. Yeah, he did look funny.
he looked like Sideshow Bob, like the
Yeah, he
Simpsons
did.
character. And I remember seeing an interview where he said, like, they asked him, like, when did things change? Like, when did you break through? And he was like, when I grew a beard,
Yeah,
like that's when people started taking me seriously. And I was like, I actually really respected that answer, because it was just like I thought that was probably going to be the case.
yeah,
He's a Yeah, he's an interesting dude. I also remember the Emma Chamberlain interview. Like he's in all of these kind of
yeah,
like
man,
viral
yeah,
moments, right? Yeah.
yeah. That was funny actually. But no, the music that I want to put you on to, and this is off piste for me, but Morgan Wallen. He's a country artist. But like his probably most famous song, he did a song with Lil Durk, Broadway Girls. That's kind of a banger actually. That you should right after this go listen to Broadway Girls. But it's by Dirk, but Morgan Wallen's featured on it.
Okay.
So that's a good one. But yeah, you know, I don't listen to country. I generally don't like country. But Morgan Wallen, man, like yeah, he's kind of the man. It's good vibe. Summer now. I could listen to this shit all the time. Yeah, I would definitely put you and the listeners onto Morgan Wallen and Broadway Girls is a good one, obviously, but like Wasted on You, Think About Me, the song Last Night. Last Night is probably his most popular song. Listen to Last Night as well. But yeah, there's some. I mean, Last Night was trending on TikTok, and people who are up and coming are saying it's a banger. So
It's interesting because first off, I never listen to country music. I'm not a country boy like you. So,
I'm not either, man. Like, I don't do country like that. But Morgan,
where's this guy from? Do you know?
I want to say he's from Tennessee. I don't know, but he has a lot of songs about Tennessee, so I want to say he's from Tennessee. But
Jamie, check where Morgan Wallen. I'm
well,
pretending to be Joe Rogan. Let's look him up real quick. Morgan Wallen. He is from.
yeah,
I don't know. Doesn't
he's
say here.
he's from yeah. I told you he's from Tennessee.
Oh, he's from Tennessee.
Yeah, that's what I
What
thought.
is Question for you on Morgan Wallen? Like, what is the theme of a lot of his music? Because when I think about country music,
It's like about like trucks and women and beer.
yeah, exactly. Is it the same thing?
Yeah, woman, beer. Yeah, but like it's the same thing, but the way it's said is and portrayed is different, I would say.
Okay. Listen,
He,
I'll give it a chance. Again, I'm not like a country music guy, but whatever. There are
he
times where there's like country sounds that I kind of like, and
yeah, I think you would like again, four of those songs, the four songs I listed, Broadway Girls, Last Night, Think About Me, and Wasted on You. Those four, listen to those four, let me know what you think. Morgan Wallen was on The Voice, sixth season of The Voice. He was on Usher's team to begin with. But yeah, he was on The Voice, which is actually crazy. I didn't know that.
that's crazy. That's your favorite show?
No, no, it's not. It's relevant here.
I'm just
Um,
messing with you today. But
yeah. So
uh, well, it's funny that you're the person that you're putting me on to is a country singer because the artist that I'm going to put you on to, I feel like but
yeah.
and I'll tie it back to country in a sec. But have you heard of the artist Riff Raff?
I have.
So Riff Raff is a rapper. It's funny because we were talking about white rappers earlier on, and I didn't even think about him, but he's the person that I'm putting you on to. And maybe the reason I'm putting you onto him is because of this one song that I heard recently that just kind of reminded me of why I think he's just really interesting. Just a little bit of context. So Riff Raff, the craziest thing is I remember watching him in this MTV reality show back in the day.
Wow.
Like, and I watched this show. I think I only watched the first episode. It was the dumbest show. It was called From G's to Gents. And it was like it was it was this show that was hosted by Farnsworth Bentley. So Diddy's like manservant guy. Do you know who that is?
The name sounds familiar.
He's like this guy who would always like dance in Diddy's videos, and like he would hold an umbrella over like people over Diddy's head. It was like very strange,
Yeah, yeah.
but he kind of became his own personality. And so the show was basically like, we're going to take a bunch of people who are like completely lost and misguided,
Yep.
and who want to kind of become like respectable individuals
Yeah.
in society. And so it was all of these like this ragtag like group of people. And one of them was Riff Raff. And
Okay.
Riff Raff at the time looked kind of similar to what he looks like now, which is just he looks crazy. He had like rainbow dreads.
Yeah, yeah,
He was like, if from the outside looking in, he just looked like a complete clown, like wannabe,
yeah,
like like gangster. And I remember the first episode of it, he like literally had like emotional breakdown, and like and I was like, wow, this guy is like a fucking mess. Like he was like,
yeah.
of all the people, he was like the biggest mess. Fast forward like a couple years later, and I became a big fan of Action Bronson. You know who Action Bronson is?
Yeah.
And and Action Bronson had like a song, um, and Riff Raff was a feature on it. And like I saw him and I was like, where do I know this guy? It was a song called Hot Shots Part Deux, and
Pardon.
Part Deux, like the movie from back in the day. And he was just like, he was so creative and so funny in this song and had like the funniest lines. I was like, wow, I like this is kind of surprising. Like he's a good rapper. And then he was on another Action Bronson song called Bird on a Wire that I loved. And then I was like, okay, I'm kind of down with Riff Raff. Like obviously he's going to be clowned by people. And
Yeah.
then like he's had a really interesting kind of career. The the movie Spring Break with James Franco, like that
Yeah.
character was based off of Riff Raff. Um, and then he's had all of these different songs, and a lot of it's rap, right? Like the songs I would put you on to are Aquaberry Dolphin. That was a song that Mac Miller was a feature on.
Heard that. Yeah.
Larry Bird was a song early on that I thought was really funny. Tiptoeing in My Jordans, which is a hilarious song.
Yeah. That's a great song.
And then his two favorite songs of mine are Lil Mama I'm Sorry, which is just an incredible rap song. And like I'm such a sucker for a xylophone, and there's like a big xylophone like part of this song. So I use it a lot like when I put up stories like as like my background music.
Yeah.
And then he has this another song that just shows his range called Time. And the
Okay.
song Time um kind of has a real country vibe to it.
Okay.
And and I always wanted to use that song as like there was a point in time where I was trying to develop like a cartoon
Yeah.
show,
Yeah.
and I wanted to use that as like the intro music of my show. And
Okay.
honestly, I would have used it as the intro music for our podcast. I would have used it as the intro music for anything. It's an incredible song. It's really a beautiful song. And so you look at the guy who's actually like gotten really buff and still has like crazy look, like rainbow, like he's almost like
Yeah.
6'9", right? In a way, like before 6'9", Takashi, like in
Yeah.
that look, has the iced out grill, has
Yeah.
like the rainbow dreads, is ripped. He looks like a WWE wrestler. He looks like, another kind of like dated reference, but he kind of
Yeah,
looks like Randy Macho Man
sure.
Savage, right?
Yeah,
And he's just really creative, really clever, makes a lot of awesome, like just hilarious references in his songs, kind of like Action Bronson,
yeah,
kind of like Lil Dicky. And I think like, if I'm thinking about kind of my favorite like white rappers, even though that's, I don't know, like I hate kind of classifying it like that, but because
sure.
there's so few,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, I feel like those three are really interesting. But yeah, Riff Raff, he's not like blowing up right now. He's just somebody that I think is really unique, and that when people look back, they'll be like, "This guy had like an interesting sound, an
yeah.
interesting look, and like made some really kind of interesting music."
Cool, man. Yeah, no, I think that's a good shout. I think between our two guys, people got some new shit to listen to.
Yeah, I'll listen to some of that Morgan Wallen. I'll be honest. I'll tell you how I feel about it. You listen to Do me a favor, listen to those two songs, Time and Lil Mama I'm Sorry.
I got you. Should we proceed to the final segment?
Yes, let's do it.
Life takeaways.
Juan, you start.
Okay. um, no, so yeah, so obviously, we met up in New York and had a conversation, not podcast. But it's been a while, and so yeah, man, I think tying and wrapping it all up after this podcast and all this. Um, I think the biggest thing for me and my life takeaway is practicing what you preach. Now, we've got this podcast and we're obviously talking about personal development and preaching these good habits and reading different books and listening to different things that are, growing our knowledge on certain topics and just, you know, increasing our mindset, our positive mindset, etc. And in the day to day, there's definitely, several situations, several times where we're talking about it on here and I'm talking about it with my friends or family or whoever. But then like when it comes time to actually like take action and something is happening, I'm not actually always doing what I say and what I'm telling you and what I'm telling other people. So I just think like the ability to, actually follow through with things and just practice what you preach all the time versus, half the time or some of the time. That's sort of what my takeaway is and what's been on my mind.
I love that because there's just like a humility to that. And obviously it's super relatable to me because agreed, like I think part of personal development and the personal development that I love and that I really kind of believe in is just that it's about getting better, it's about growing, it's about learning, but like you're still gonna stumble. You're still human, and like I feel the same way. Like I there's a lot of times where I'm saying these things and I have such conviction about it, and then I catch myself like
Yeah,
falling back into those old habits and those patterns of behavior that aren't the most beneficial to me, and so it's kind of having a level set. There's an expression, what is it, like do what I say, or my dad always used to say this to me, like
do what I say,
not what I
not what I do.
do.
Yeah, that's what it is. Do what I say,
Yeah,
not what I do.
I think I think it's I don't I think it's like I think it's that, or it's something like that. I was trying to look it up real quick, but um yeah, I think it's a great one, and I'm glad that you mentioned it. My takeaway is I've had a tough couple of weeks, to be just like
Right.
completely honest. Um, I lost my aunt a couple weeks ago, who was, somebody that was very special to me. Um, she was there for me and my family when we were going through all the things with my dad. It was my dad's stepsister, but all my grandparents, strangely enough, were married and then
Yeah.
divorced and then remarried. So I had a lot of step aunts and uncles and step cousins, all these things. She was my aunt growing up, like, or one of the main aunts I had, and just it was very tough just dealing with that because it happened very quickly. And this month is actually Mental Health Awareness Month, and it's something that I never really gave a lot of thought to as just like recognizing it, but now kind of having that happen. There's been a couple of other things that have happened that have been tragic, like in my world, and some sad stuff. So just dealing with grief, and then I also just I suffer from a couple of mental health things. Like I've gone through bouts of depression. I have anxiety. These are things that I've dealt with my entire life, and only recently in the last couple of years have just kind of like come to the realization of just being open and honest about it, and kind of just
Yeah.
like realizing that that's what it is. And you know, when you get older, when you have a family, when you have responsibilities, when you have all of these things that are kind of like piling on, it's a lot, man. It's a burden, and on top of all the work responsibilities, I mean, in the last like week or two, I've been on the verge of like burning out, and I've had to take that step back to kind of tell myself like, you know what, like it's okay. It's okay to feel like you have everything kind of stacked against you. You have all this pressure,
Yeah.
and then when you lose somebody that's close to you, it just gives you that perspective of like remembering what's important, remembering like the work stuff. Like it's at the end of the day, it's,
No, 100%.
we've talked about it ad nauseum. Like it's not that important. What really matters most is kind of like your family, the relationships you have and all these things. But also just about taking the time to really, you know, focus on your mental health and to do the things that, make you happy and make you healthy, that can contribute to having a better life, a more fulfilling life. And I just think um it's a lot. It's a lot. I see it with a lot of people in the younger generation of just like, they've lived through COVID and all of these kind of like crazy times right now, where, again, like the cards in the deck are stacked against them. And I feel that way a lot of the time myself. And so I just kind of want to give that shout to like mental health awareness, like
Yeah.
it's a real thing out there. It's a thing that a lot of people suffer through. I think that, a lot of times you don't know what people are going through in their lives. And, I think that's why we always have to be more compassionate.
I was the word that was in my I was about to say, that's what comes to down to compassion. But
Yeah, man. I mean, like, I go into work sometimes, especially in the last few weeks, and I have this thing that's like inside of me, like this baggage, this thing that like I'm talking to somebody in a conversation, and I feel like I don't want to kind of like put that on them, but like they don't know what I'm going through, and then it makes me realize, you know what? I don't know what they're going through. I don't know like kind of
yeah,
the trials and tribulations. I don't know about the people they've lost, or like, the hardships and the adversity.
for
And
sure.
so, whenever I see people that are at odds or contentious or whatever, and again, I, I do this myself. It's just having the mindfulness to realize like we're all doing our best. And life is short, and it's filled with ups and downs, and let's not be too hard on ourselves. It's like, what was I was going to tell you that this quote earlier on of like the Naval, where it's, don't take yourself too seriously, you're just a monkey with a plan. That's like a Naval Ravikant
Yeah.
thing. I don't know. I could kind of ramble on about this for a while, but I'd be interested if you have any just kind of thoughts off of all of that word dump that I
Yeah.
just you on
The jargon.
all the jargon.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you touched on it all. I think, for me and how I kind of approach things, to your point, if if I'm not gonna worry about something like work, whatever, like bad performance, life, like relationships, made a poor financial decision, like whatever's going on at the end of the day, if I'm healthy, my family is healthy, the people I care about most are healthy, like I just always fall back on that. It's one of those things where, again, whatever happens in the day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year, is going to happen. Like, and I do believe everything happens for a reason. And so, there's going to be, several hardships, but at the end of the day, I try to find, and I've I haven't dealt with a whole bunch. Like I've lost family members, I've lost people in my life that I cared about, and it's one of those things where I at first obviously grieve, but then I see the light in, I'm so glad we were able to do those things and just have those conversations. That person was a light in my life, and I'll be forever grateful. And obviously sucks that that is gone too soon, and but it's one of those things where that may have never, like, that person was in your life for a reason that may have never happened. So that's kind of how I approach it. And again, like, this is me talking right now. Do I fully practice this? No. Do I try
Mhm.
to? Yeah. But like, that's how I sort of think about things and approach things. And yeah, man, life is tough, but it's not that serious. We're all figuring it out, and everyone's got their own shit they're dealing with. And I think that ties back to just being, compassionate and understanding. Like, that's all it is. So that's kind of my jargon
Yeah,
on
I would say this. You're young. I'm a little bit older, and like everybody says, like it doesn't get easier. Like it definitely doesn't get
no,
easier. I
no.
mean, I'm at an age where like, you know, like I have relatives and like they're only getting older and yeah, and then I'm also at the age where like I have kids and it just it makes things so much more serious in that way, right? Like it makes it so much more daunting. You care so much about them, you worry about them. And so, you know, I just think to your point, being compassionate, giving yourself a break, doing the things that make you happy, and being kinder to yourself. I think it's a really important kind
Yeah,
of
not
thing that,
judging yourself.
yeah, like you gotta be able to not be too hard on yourself and give yourself, the freedom to just kind of
Feel, just
be
feel.
okay. Yeah, feel all the feelings.
I, I, I think. I mean, I think that's a great spot to call it. That was a good fucking episode. Yeah, episode 7 wrapped. We'll catch you on episode 8. We're gonna be rolling, in better cadence. And yeah, D, it's been real. Good to chat.
Appreciate you, Cal.
And yeah, thank you to everyone for listening. Peace.
Peace.
Thank you for tuning into the Put On Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and don't forget to follow us on social at the Put On Pod.